Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic show. This is episode 329. I really got a guest I've been looking forward to our conversation. That is Isaac Tolpin from ConveYour. And Isaac, would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers of the show?
Absolutely. Great to be here, first of all. And I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. One of the founders of ConveYour.com, which is a microlearning platform, and a family man. So, that's the most important thing right there.
And he's an RV fan as well. He's been RVing for the past 3 months. There we go. And I've got my great co-host with me as well, Cindy Nicholson. Cindy, would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers?
Thank you, Jonathan. Hi, everyone. It's Cindy Nicholson from thecoursewhisperer.com, and I help entrepreneurs that are wanting to create online courses.
And in this episode, we're going to be discussing with Isaac the whole area of micro-learning. It should be a fascinating conversation. But before we go into it, I want to talk about one of our great sponsors, and we really appreciate our sponsors. It helps with keeping the show going. And that's WP Fusion. And what is WP Fusion, you ask yourself? Well, it enables you to communicate with two key elements of your technology stack, and that's WordPress and the CRM that you use to automate your email, SMS, or anything else around online marketing. So traditionally, it's not always been that easy to get your WordPress website to communicate with your CRM. But with WP Fusion, it's a breeze, and it works with 40 of the leading CRMs on the market at the present moment. So basically, it covers almost all of them. And what it really does, if you've got a membership site, it really enables your membership site or your learning management system to really communicate with your CRM, so you can really finite different messages to different people that are visiting your membership site, and you can market target audience. Basically, it puts it on steroids. And the other great thing is WP Fusion have given it an exclusive deal to WP-Tonic. If you go to their website, and you'll find links in the show notes, and you use the coupon code WP-Tonic or uppercase, you will get 25% off any of the packages on the WP Fusion website. And that is a fantastic offer that is only offered to the WP-Tonic tribe. So I suggest you go over there, buy one of their packages, and just be blown away. There we go. So Isaac, we're going to be talking about micro-learning. Would you like to give a brief outline of what you feel, what is micro-learning and why it's so important if you've got a membership sites, basically?
Yeah, I would say, it's in the name, right? It's shorter content to align with where human behavior is at. But I think it goes deeper than that, because a lot of people misunderstand that, well, shorter pieces of content, does that mean I'm teaching less? Or, my robust information that takes a 15-minute video, can I still do that? And the answer is yes. It's just to align with human behavior, we're breaking it down and gamifying and doing some things that really attract people.
So that was brief. What advice would you give to somebody that's building an online course membership site, or those that got an existing one? What are some of the key advice, or some of the things you see people doing wrong, maybe, when they're trying to develop their courses more in the micro learning methodology?
Well, if somebody has a membership site or they have courses out there, the first thing they're going to notice if they're looking at the data is people aren't retained very well. I mean, you're losing members constantly. If it's a course, you may not even be looking at it, but most people don't make it through a third lesson in a traditional course. So whether that's Ivy League colleges and they pay full price for those, or it's a trainer, selling their information online, or it's a company, unless the company's making employees do it. And it's just really important to realize that we're in a YouTube world, Netflix world. We're in a world where we can control what we consume. And if it's not interesting, we bail. And so if you're not developing things in the right way, there's about 5 components I believe need to be intact in a microlearning lesson or series of lessons that creates a course that really retain people. Because it's one thing to get someone into a course, right? People can sell something, they can give something away, companies can tell their employees to do something. But it's a whole nother thing when we're in the busy flow of our life to get somebody back into it. You know, raise your hand right now, not really, but you know what I mean. If you've ever been to a course and you just loved the experience. And so probably hardly anybody is raising their hand right now. And so it's really important to align that. See, content is no longer king or queen, if you'd rather. So the issue here is that sometimes we get so enamored with our content. We're like, my content's amazing. People are going to be retained by it. It's so good. And frankly, it doesn't matter how good your content is if you don't have the other component. So what is king or queen? It is great content with a great delivery mechanism that aligns with human behavior. And that's where microlearning is transformative, because there's really no other way to align with human behavior. And we can talk about aspects that go into that.
That sounds great. So you've got actual company that actually helps with this. What are some of the key things that you think your company and its services offer to help with microlearning then, Isaac?
Yeah, you mentioned learner trust, I think before we started chatting. I'm glad you did, because that is important. Learner trust is, do they trust when they come back to your learning, that they're not going to be bored, it's going to be brief, and it's going to be valuable. But there's other components that go into it, to answer your question, which is, nobody wants videos just talking at them anymore. What does everybody want today, whether they realize it or not? They want an experience. And if you don't give them an experience, they're going to bail. And what does an experience look like in a micro lesson? Well, first of all, it's got to have completion. Well, that's basic. A lot of traditional platforms will have that, where I do something and it completes. So when I come back, it knows I'm on the next step now. However, if it takes 15 minutes to complete, because a lesson is 15 minutes long or more, then you have a real problem. So everything has to be accomplished in a lesson, not just the video, the entire lesson, within 5 to 7 minutes. 7 minutes is getting long. So it really needs to be brief. And so what has to happen within that 5 minutes, let's say, they need to be taught something valuable, straight and to the point, no fluff. I mean, people just want the information. We're in a bail it world, right? And go to the next thing. So it's got to complete. It's got to recognize me for doing something. So we're in a world where what happens on social media? We get recognized every time we do something with a like, a comment, more people saw it, whatever the case is. And so it's got to be recognized. There's got to be gamification, and it's got to engage me. I have to be able to engage with it, whether it's answering a poll question, drag and dropping a dial 1 to 10, rating something, doing a collaborative answer where I can see everybody else's answer afterwards. It's got to have some kind of engagement, and you got to accomplish all that within 5 to 7 minutes. And the last piece to that is it's got to be beautiful and mobile. It just has to be. So the big fallacy is a lot of these platforms build for PC and make it work on mobile. And really, more people are on mobile. So it makes sense now to actually build it for mobile, but also make sure it works on those PCs over there. And that's really important, because you build software differently in the user experience if it's built for mobile. And then if you're notifying people, this is really important. If you're using just email, you're going into a place where people feel guilty. So if you're having them do something that's optional, like consume your course, well, everybody think about how many emails are in your inbox right now. And if you have less than 5, you are like not of this world. Okay. So you're like an unusual person, which is cool. It's good to be an unusual person. But most people have a big inbox that's constantly getting stuff in there, and it's hard. So if you're notifying people by email of a new lesson, like you're dripping out, which is a really powerful concept, to drip content out to people, you are subconsciously adding to this guilty feeling they have of their inbox. And as soon as a few of those notifications stack up and they don't get back to your course, then they're just going to kind of go, this is too hard for me to take. I'm too busy right now. And they're going to delete those emails and probably not continue that course. So we're seeing just-in-time notifications, real-time notifications, whether it's a text message or in-app notification, are much more powerful.
That sounds great. I'm going to ask you a more kind of fundamental question. You know, obviously you're not an academic, but you're entrepreneur and you're really committed to online education, Isaac. Any of the research, do you think that we've got a better idea about how actual children and adults learn fundamentally and why they don't learn?
Wow, I love that question. You know, it's funny because I have 7 kids and every one of them is unique and different and learn completely different.
Yeah.
And so it's really fascinating how different people are. And traditional education, frankly, I didn't really fit into the mold, I felt, very well to learn in the classroom style, sitting there and just listening to information. So I'm a more of a do it and experience things kind of person. So I think that there's tons of data out there on all the different learning styles. And that's why in your lessons, you've got to hit all different kinds of people. There are people, by the way, that appreciate long form content. There are those people. However, it's just there's a very small amount of those people, I think, that are going to spend that time. And so, some people might be listening and go, give me the longer video. I'll just, my own time, I'll digest it and so forth. And I would say even with those people that are willing to go through longer form content, big written text and all this stuff, the chances they actually get to it, even if they like it, are just slim. Whether we're busy or not, we believe we are. And there's so many competing priorities today. I just think that all learning styles, this fits really well with. And again, I'm not talking about, let's say you have a 15-minute video. I'll give you guys an example of a doctor, okay? This is kind of interesting because what more deep, important information would be training doctors, right? Where you can't get that wrong. So I was talking to a head of learning at a major hospital group that has actually 15 hospitals. And he's developing the e-learning. Well, he really shifted to micro-learning on his own, doing it in kind of a rudimentary way, which is just short videos on a website and doing the best he can. And this doctor was over and over again teaching the same concept to new doctors. And he took out his iPhone and he shot a video of what he was doing in like 5 minutes. It's very short. And he put it up. And the doctor was like, at first, like, oh, how dare you? You can just pull out an iPhone and capture this. We need to do this really well, But at the end of it, he was like, I have been teaching that same concept over and over again and hoping we could replicate it someday. Now, you literally just pulled out your iPhone and you shot it, and now we have it. This is wonderful. And it kind of transformed their thinking about this, which is, hey, let's lower our standards in some places just so that learning is actually happening, because you can't create an organizational culture. You can't create a learning culture and drive it with learning unless you have enough learning happening, because culture isn't created by events.
Yeah, I think I'm getting the drift there. That's really an interesting answer. Thank you so much for that, Isaac. No, that was a very thoughtful answer. I can see where you're going now, actually, with that, actually. We're going to go for our break, and when we come back, Cindy's going to take over, and we're going to delve some more into this fascinating subject of micro-learning. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back, folks. Isaac's been a great guest. We've had a good chat so far, and the more intelligent side of the show is going to take over in a minute. Over to you, Cindy.
Thanks, Jonathan. Hi, Isaac. Thanks so much for being here. I don't know if you've noticed while we've been on video, I've been sitting here nodding my head vigorously to pretty much everything you say.
Oh, good.
I'm an instructional designer, so I've done tons of training and courses for people, and I work with entrepreneurs right now, and one of the biggest things that I have to help them with is to break their content down into little micro learning lessons.
Yeah.
They balk at the idea of having a 5-minute video. They have no idea how they can deliver it. And so I'm just nodding my head because like you and I speak the same language. It's so awesome because
I love it. That's great.
I came from the corporate world where was corporate trainer, and that was constantly my thing. How can we make sure that the people learn the material, but then can apply it, right? It's all about ROI for the investment of training. So anyway, I love everything that you're saying, Isaac. I love this business. So I'm actually curious because I kind of come from a training background. How did you get even into this field and doing what you're doing?
That's a really interesting topic because I'm not an academic person necessarily. I've graduated college, obviously, but I was in direct sales for a long time, of all things. And I had 2 states, 32 physical office locations. And we were, at the end, I was doing about 10 million a year in revenue. And I left that when I was doing very well. But what was interesting about that is we recruited college students. And I was there for a long time. I developed lots of leaders and had organizational structure, about 100 leaders. And it was very interesting to be in that because I really understood where human behavior is going, not only from my own experiences, but being around so many young adults for such a long time and working with them. So that's one thing, which is not an academic background, but a real deep experience background. I would say the next thing I did is I built an e-learning agency. And the reason I did that is because I'm a paid speaker and executive coach, and I've done those things before as well, just because I'm passionate and fun about it, really fun. I love impact. And I thought, what a better way to build a company that expands the impact of these really amazing people with incredible information. And so we built it to 43 employees with 2 video studios, and we did the production side of e-learning on a publishing model where we take a cut forever on whatever they sold or their content for or their courses. What I learned in that is there wasn't any software we could use that aligned with human behavior. And I was deep in the space talking to deans of universities and, big publishing outfits to the celebrity influencers, and all these people would fly out. And I was deep into this, and I'm like, why hasn't somebody created something from the ground up that was built for the learner that aligns actually with where human behavior is and is going? And so that's the genesis. And so I ended up closing that business down. I have a different business partner with ConveYour, and we already had a profitable company with a different product, and things were going great. And Steven and I decided to, build ConveYour. So kind of a different background, but we got to a great place.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, I love how you just recognize that there was a gap, right? And because I kind of often feel the same way as well. We have the people who create the products, but then there's the learners. And if you can get something designed for the learner, then that's going to only reap benefits on both sides. So I appreciate that because I'm always advocating for a really good learning experience. So again, let's kind of help compel these content creators to create, micro learning. Like, how do we convince them to, do more bite-sized learning? So if somebody comes to you and says, I have a lesson that I want to teach. It'll probably take me about 20 minutes, to deliver all of the content. What is your advice and the reasons why you give your advice to do it more brief, bite-sized pieces?
Yeah, exactly. And so we're caught in this mindset if it takes 20 minutes or something, and a lot of people are. So this is really good. Let's turn that into 3 micro lessons. Okay. And say it's 20 minutes. And so we're going to get rid of 5 minutes of fluff. Okay. So now you're down to 15 minutes. And so I always say, hey, that takes more preparation, right? So, doing less. And remember, the Gettysburg Address was what? Just a couple minutes, and it's one of the most famous messages of all time. I was just in Gettysburg, right where Lincoln gave that message. Incredible. So this was on top of my mind. It's like, okay, sometimes it's a little harder to do a smaller message, but it's more powerful. You want to speak directly to your audience. My advice too is like, bring it down looking straight in the camera and talk as if you're talking to one person. Because at the end of the day, there's going to be one learner sitting in front of you. And so you want to talk that way. You don't want to talk as if you're on stage like a platform speaker. You want to talk intimately to one person and coach them and help them with whatever you're teaching. I would say too is that you can still do the 15 minutes. It's just going to be 3 micro lessons. And the benefit of that is that they're going to complete sooner. So now they can do a little bit now in between something, you can do a little bit later, and you're more likely to get them to do it. Here's an example I usually share with people is that when my first child, I was a new dad trying to figure this whole dad thing out. I hadn't been around kids very much in my life up until then. And she wouldn't eat. Any parents relate to that? She wouldn't eat anything. And so I got the biggest plate possible, big white plate, and I cut the piece of pizza into the smallest sliver I possibly could, and I put it right in the center. And I said, I don't know if you're able to eat that. It's kind of a big deal. And she's like, of course I can eat that, Dad. And she eats it up. And long story short, at the end, she ate 2 full pieces of pizza as I continued to do that. I think the psychology of consumption is when we feel busy and overwhelmed, we can only take so much. And so I think when we explain that to authors, they really get it and they buy into it pretty quick.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, and everything that you're saying. And for me too, it's easier for the creator to go back and edit and change things if they've only little modules to take out, but it's also better for the learner because, based on my own experience of doing participating in online courses, if I see a video that's 20 minutes long, I'll be like, okay, there's no way I can do that right now, so I'm out. Whereas if you see smaller pieces, like, okay, I got 5 minutes, I can go through this. So there's just so many win-wins on both sides that.
You say a very important point I want to touch on. That was really important, is that the longer your videos are and the more you put into your videos, the less relevant you're going to be. Because just think about how much you invest in editing, all this work. One little thing is wrong in that video, outdated. What's the likelihood you're going to go back and change it or even remember that it's outdated? Well, hey, people today, they get one lesson that has something that's not relevant anymore. They think your whole thing is irrelevant now. And so you hit on something so important that let's take the friction out of the production and let's count on the software to bring the videos to life versus all of the pressure being on the video production.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. So when you're talking about software, you'd mentioned gamification, and I'd like to kind of talk about that a little bit more because, again, I think it is a huge element to help assist with the completion rates of courses. So can you tell me, what are some things that people can include as part of their course to, from a gamification? I don't want them to be thinking it's like video games. Like what is gamification and what are some examples of that how you can incorporate in your course?
Yeah, people really misunderstand when learning people say gamification, that's for sure. So LinkedIn, everybody will understand LinkedIn. Gamification is the percentage of your profile that's filled out and the name LinkedIn calls you. I think I'm like a all-star right now because it's 98% completed. And I'll tell you, over time, that's probably motivated me to finish my dang profile on LinkedIn. So that's gamification. It's as simple as that. It's the ability to engage maybe in a poll question afterwards. So you ask what some of the things are. Well, first of all, I really believe you got to give them achievement currency. And achievement currency is literally points, simple as points for completing something. You can give everybody the same points or you can give them variable points based on how they're doing it, depending on the context. But you know what? If they get points and their name is on the leaderboard, what is their parents instilled in everybody's minds, most parents, is that your name means something. Okay, so our name is powerful. So they want their name, the FOMO of social media, fear of missing out. Now you're tapping into that, which is good because they don't want to miss out what their name is associated with on a leaderboard with other people, even if they have no idea who those people are. Okay, if they do know who they are, even better in a department in a company or something. So you got to do that. You've got to have some social learning in there. Social learning is literally, well, you could say the leaderboard has an aspect of social learning because I can see other people and so forth. But also, one of the things we did was in a poll question, instead of just answering a poll question, giving them immediate feedback instantaneously right on their device of how they answered compared to everybody else with anonymous percentages. So, oh, interesting. I'm in the minority here in what I think about these 4 possibilities. Or, wow, everybody's thinking this the same. I'm not alone. So that's really powerful. Or the ability to answer an open-ended question where there's a box and I can type as much as I want. But afterwards, I can see my name with my answer in a list of everybody else's answers. And obviously the video would let you know that ahead of time. But that's really, really powerful to have some of that social learning in there. I think another thing, too, is challenging people in variable points. I'm really into the competitive side, healthy competition. Some learning professionals are like, oh, let's just give everybody the same points. It's like, oh, let's give everybody the same trophy that played soccer. I don't really completely agree with that, but that's okay. I think when you do variable points, it's really compelling. Like, let's say they have, oh, here's a big one that people appreciate, live training. How much do people actually retain from a speech? And what is the behavior change afterwards because someone gave a speech? You know what? I have a lot of professional speaker friends, and they will even confidentially admit to me very little behavior change happens when a company spends $15,000 to hire them. It doesn't mean it's not a good thing. You got to make this event great. You got to have a good feeling afterwards and all that. Get it? What if now you could do a reinforcement campaign where you dripped micro lessons out to people after you spoke that now actually created behavior change with the principles you taught? And what if, on this last gamification tip I'll give you guys, is you challenge them with a question, multiple choice, 1 right, 3 wrong. And every time, first of all, I measured the speed. So the faster you did it, the more points you got, but you didn't even actually really know that. What you did know is that every time you got it wrong, you lost 150 points, and you could keep choosing until you got it right. And boom, when you get it right, then boom, the speaker comes on for a 2-minute video of why that's the right answer. And then boom, I got a different amount of points than everybody else on every question. So the leaderboard's really diverse. Well, that was done at Capital One, Coke and Marriott, the same course, and 75 to 100% completion of an optional course that was 30 lessons, dripped out daily for 30 days with a text message notification every single time. So if you ever think text message notification, I don't want to send too many text messages. Well, these middle managers of these big companies loved getting the text message on the phone and loved answering every day for 30 days because on an optional basis, almost everybody did it. So
that's fantastic.
Actually, Cindy, we need to go wrap up, but hopefully Isaac is going to stay on. He has agreed to stay on, and we'll be continuing the discussion, which you'll be able to see on the WP website and YouTube channel. Isaac, how can people find out more about you and learn more about you and your amazing product?
ConveYour.com, ConveYour.com. You can get a free little demo right to your phone. I'll text your phone. You can play with a dummy course that has different engagement formats. Isaac at Tolpin on LinkedIn or social media. Feel free to connect with me, even if we've never met. I'm totally cool with that. Isaac at ConveYour.com if you want to send me an email or ask me any questions.
That's great. And Cindy, how can people find out more about you and what you're up to, Cindy?
Well, if somebody's wanting to create an online course and need a little bit help to put it all together, you can find me at thecoursewhisperer.com.
That's great. And viewers and listeners, thank you for last month. It was the most biggest week for WP-Tonic ever. We had more listeners and viewers than any time in the history of the 3 years of the show. So thank you so much for your support. And basically, we love to get feedback from you. So go to the WP-Tonic and tell us of the kind of guests or subjects you would like us to discuss, or we'll go to our Facebook page and leave a comment there. And if you're feeling very generous, go to iTunes and leave us some feedback. Give us a review through iTunes. That really does help the show. We'll be back next week where we'll have a guest, somebody in online courses giving you advice on marketing or around WordPress in general, but somebody that will help you. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye. Sorry, Cindy, but I want to keep it to 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah. No, I had less time than that, so we're good.
Right, there we go. All right, then, off you go, Cindy. Finish your question.
I went off on this long answer, that's my bad.
No, it was awesome because I think that's where like the examples that you have in terms of it's amazing. Like it's little things like that, like the little gamification pieces that can make all of the difference in the world. The content could be the same, but if by adding those pieces, it makes a huge difference. So it's kind of annoying because that's all about human behavior, right? It's like, how are we being manipulated?
I like the word influenced.
Yes, that's a better word. That's so true. So your business right now, is it mostly focused on corporations then, or can your tool be leveraged for online businesses? And maybe tell us a little bit more about what your product offers.
We started only focusing on the trainer market, corporate trainers, best-selling authors, coaches, people that want to leverage their content. So it's great for that. The pricing on our website is set up for trainers and enterprises contact us. We have shifted some of our marketing focus to enterprise. So we have lots of big clients and mid-sized companies as well, because it's perfect for that too. So it's really good for both.
And tell me a little bit about how your product works. Is it its own LMS system, or is it an add? How does it all kind of work with all of the interface?
Yeah. It's technically it's its own LMS system, although I don't call it an LMS because that's I believe a dying category eventually. It can integrate with LMS systems. It can integrate with your WordPress. It can integrate with your membership site. So you can do condition-based stuff where, let's say, 7 days after they join, I want to send them a text message with a poll question right to their phone. So you can bring to life some of these more traditional methodologies by integrating ConveYour into it. And so doing condition-based stuff. What if someone joins your membership and then, boom, you text their phone and a welcome video appears on their phone and just encourages them and explains that how, there's really good value here and so forth. I think there's a big benefit. Anyone has membership sites, the biggest challenge you have is retaining your members. And so you can really use ConveYour to integrate with that and retain people.
I was interested. Oh, sorry, go on, Cindy.
No, go ahead, because I'm sure that piqued your interest there, Jonathan.
I'm interested in you saying that you think learning management systems as a general category hasn't got a long-term future. Would you give some indication why you feel that way, Isaac?
I think that eventually that acronym will have to change, maybe a learning engagement system or something like that. I think that anything called an LMS, I've just talked to too many HR executives. Every single one hates their LMS. I haven't ran into a single...
Well, they're not using your one, are they?
Yeah, I haven't ran into a single professional that loves their LMS. Now, but when we give them something simple, so ConveYour, much simpler, right? You can author things. You can put the video link in, put an engagement format, string it with other lessons. It's like, boom, if you have the content, you can build a lesson in a few minutes. So why wouldn't you want that? And then at the same time, the engagement is way higher. But it's a different mindset. You're still doing Articulate, you're still doing Captivate in the HR world, and you're still putting all this effort into videos. When here I'm saying, hey, I don't care if you use an iPhone. It's going to be better than what you're doing if you put it in a platform with engagement around it and make it shorter, and text message notifications. And so people are into it, but it is a big change and a shift. So LMS systems aren't going away anytime soon. That's not what I meant. But I think that, people don't like them. Learners.
Well, I think what you're saying is the baggage that goes around the term.
The baggage. Yeah, the baggage. I'd much rather, that's why we coin ourselves as micro-learning or learning engagement system, because I just don't want to be connected to the baggage of that. However, we also, a lot of our customers use ConveYour to bring their LMS to life, actually. So we're not against LMS systems, but we're saying, hey, you are killing your organizational culture if you have just a traditional LMS system. So bring ConveYour in to bring it to life, or replace it. Now on the trainer side, here, let's talk about trainers for a second, because I think a lot of those are listening, is that those people have a brand that they're valiantly building. and they care about. And it's that a lot of times associated with the personal brand. How personal is that? And so what do you want to do? You want to sell something that that makes people actually enamored with your brand and want to come back and buy more. Well, if 90% of your people leave after the second or third lesson and never come back, are you boosting your brand image and desire to buy more from you? So, no.
I think that was a very powerful. Do you mind me asking another question, Cindy?
Go ahead.
Go
No, that's good. I'm just sitting here nodding my head as Isaac talks.
As we were discussing, Isaac, it came back to me. I'm rereading a book that I read about a year ago, and it's called Change or Die by a guy called Alan Dirchman. And it's about why, because I see it as all kind of online learning or learning in general. Obviously, you're learning a skill to do something, but a lot of fundamental learning also changes the person. It's a methodology of change, really. The person that learns a new thing isn't the person that they were before they learned something. But people find change very difficult. And in this book, the three things that he has a number of chapters where he kind of shows that different organizations found change difficult. And then he gives reasons why they did other things, why they enabled the organization or the individuals to change. And the three things that he points out in the book is repetition, right? Basically, also doing something at the same time, i.e. making something a habit. Mm-hmm. And the third thing is mentorship. I think if you want your course to be more successful, encouraging obviously repetition through the things that we've discussed during this show, and then you got any insight how? First of all, do you agree with the three things I've outlined that I got from the book? And how do you encourage that doing the course becomes a habit, so you finish it? And then how do you introduce mentorship?
I think I agree with those things. I agree change is hard for a good large portion of people, actually. And most people will not admit that change is hard for them, but it is. And I think that one of the things you can do, a couple things you can do in a course is, first of all, you've got to, I said this before, but you got to speak directly to them, and you've got to create an experience with some accountability in it to get that mentorship feel. So that's the kind of the holy grail that's missing for trainers. And that's why trainers, Cindy, you probably have a hard time with this with the trainers, is that they're like, nothing can replace what I do in person. It's so special that I have to be there for it. And there's truth to that, actually. Like coaching, that one-to-one human connection, it's really hard to replace. Speaking even, nothing replaces the human connection from stage when someone's really good at that. But what if I said, you have the next best thing here? And I've done this before. Right when we launched, I built an 11 lesson course called Build More Than a Business. It was for business owners to wake them up about, hey, being purposeful with your family should also catalyze your business and vice versa. So I created 11 videos with my iPhone 6, just to prove, I have good cameras and stuff, but just to prove you could. And business owners would love it. And then what I did in there is, like on a certain day, I gave them a lesson about leadership. And I asked them during that day, I said, hey, I want you to analyze your leadership in this way. I want you to ask this question all day to analyze your leadership. And at the end of the day, I'm going to ask you how it went. And so then I scheduled a second lesson to go that day. So a lesson went in the morning. They got a text notification. They got the video. And then at the end of the day, 8 p.m., I sent them a text message and they hit the link and boom, an open-ended question popped up for them to fill in how it went for the day. I got so much feedback on that course that they literally felt like I was right there coaching, mentoring them along. And it was 11 days. See, a lot of people are doing 20 and 30 days because to develop habit, you want to go even further. But I was just doing a test, so I wanted to make it shorter. But I had so many people finish that whole thing, and people shared it all over the place. And it was a really successful test. I kind of wanted to see if business owners would love the gamification, getting points. One of the things I did there too, I think people will find fascinating, is they gave no reward. In the videos, I didn't even talk about points. But every time they did something, they saw they were getting points. They found the leaderboard easily because it's right there. And you hit a button and they see it. And on the fourth day, I invited them. Hey, by the way, if you're getting value out of this, share it to social media. And by the way, I'll give you 1,000 extra points just to make it fun. Boom. Everybody started sharing. And yeah, I think they liked my course, but I think really they just wanted more points. And it was really fascinating to see these 50-year-old plus people just getting really into this. And I think so mentorship can happen because now you can do time-based release of things that are more personal with accountability and engagement. And I think the trainer world, and I've seen this, the trainer world loves that because that's more in alignment with the kind of work they do usually.
And do you think there's any methodologies based on your experience that can encourage, for people, for it to become a habit? I choose a specific time that you should, block out a specific time to do this course, very general advice on the onboarding that will encourage that it becomes a habit to do the course,
Yeah, I think daily, if you want to help people develop habits, it's daily and it's, over 20 days, to really instill, behavior change in doing something. And, another thing you can, it depends on where you're at. In a corporate environment, that might be harder in some cases, right? To text people every single day and get them into it. But it just depends on your audience and so forth. Another thing you can do is every Tuesday, you can teach them something. Every Friday, you could ask them a thoughtful question. And you can do that for a whole bunch of series of weeks. And you can hold them accountable to one thing you have them do during that week. So that's another approach. Teach them something at the beginning of the week, give them a few days to do it. And then Friday, ask them how it went and teach them why that was an important experience and encourage them over the weekend to think about it. So that can be like a weekly approach too, a little less intrusive with so many text messages if anybody's concerned about that. And do that.
Yeah, it's quite funny, really, because I've worked for some Fortune 500 companies and I've found them to be some of the most dysfunctional organisations that I've ever had the misfortune to deal with, apart from the paycheck they gave me or the consultancy fee. But Cindy, have you got a final question to wrap up?
I don't, other than maybe tell us a little bit about what you've learned on your last 3-month excursion with your family.
Yeah, thanks for asking. It was unbelievable. I thought, we'll see. I thought it would be great because we're going to go, 34 states, 10,000 miles. We have a 39-foot Class A RV with 3 slides, so it's a pretty good rig. And we also brought a Sprinter van, 11-passenger Sprinter van for our round town vehicle. So we were quite the sight on the road and wherever we went, and it was amazing. Our country is incredible. One of the best things, obviously, our family bonding. We grew even closer together. Which, by the way, anybody listening, if you're not parenting well, you may not grow closer in tight quarters. So it's actually a sign of good parenting, and I will take a little credit for that. But my wife should get even more. But what we also learned is our country loves our country, meaning despite what you see in the news, when you cross the midpoint from the West Coast to the East Coast, heading towards the East Coast, you see all the small towns lined with American flags, patriotic, not because it's the holiday or something like that. They're always up. You see untattered flags where there's a culture of taking down the flag and putting it back up. That really left an impression for me because if you watch the news or anything like that, you think everybody hates the flag and hates America, and that's just not true. New York State was surprisingly amazing. We went to New York City on 4th of July, so yeah, I brought my family into New York City, drove the rig into Jersey City right across the bridge from New York City into an RV park. That was interesting. But it was an incredible experience. And then, but upstate New York was amazing, and the beaches, and people are just nice everywhere. We only felt in danger in one place in the entire country, and we were in all kinds of places. And so we really felt protected, and overall, in general, there's really good people. I met a guy at Starbucks. I was working, because I worked full time. I was on the trip too, and this guy seemed to know everybody in town. And then my son and my wife come in to tell me something, because I guess I wasn't answering my phone, or they're getting coffee or something. And my son Luke, who's 10, shakes this guy's hand, because I met him. We talked briefly, and they shake hands, and then my wife and son leave, and then afterwards he goes, "Wow, your son looked me in the eyes and shook my hand and smiled. That is really incredible." Like, he was blown away by that. I'm like, well, we shouldn't be blown away by that, but that's cool. And then he goes, "I have the best beach in town." This is in Madison, Connecticut. "I have the best beach in town. Bring your family to the beach tonight." And so we show up, and sure enough, beautiful beach, boogie boards, surf, fridge in the cabana on the beach with drinks for the kids, and just hanging out for hours. And so it was that kind of thing. We just got favor upon favor all over the country, and it was really remarkable. So people can you can look up the Tolpins on YouTube if you want to see the 14 episodes from our trip.
Oh my gosh.
I'll take that up, actually. It sounds fascinating. Isaac, you must come back on the show again in the coming months, because I don't know what Cindy felt, but I really enjoyed the conversation. Isaac, it's been fascinating. You've been a great guest. So we're going to wrap up this part of the show, folks, and we'll be back next week, where we're going to have a quality guest giving you some insights on how to build your course, your membership site, and getting success online in general. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye.